And we're on.
Brilliant.
Well, at least I think we are. I hope we are. We've had. Is it fair to say it's been a little bit challenging to get to this place technically? Just a little bit.
It's been one of those days, yes, but we're here now, so that's good.
Yeah, we're here now. Let's not move our shoulders. Just stay perfectly still and hope for the best. Tim Wigham, it is great to have you back on Crux Cast. Absolutely fantastic. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Eric. It's great to be back here as well, and great to be chatting with you again.
Fantastic. So a little bit different since the last time we met, because you, of course, were on the original series of Crux Cast. You were number 43 back in August 28th, 2000, which doesn't really feel that long ago, really. It doesn't.
2020, 2 years ago, exactly. And right in amongst the COVID period. But you're right, a lot has happened in that time. It doesn't feel like it should be 2 years ago during the pandemic. But yeah, a lot has happened.
It's just gone like that. So 2 years ago we met and we did a recorded version and all of that. Now the Cruxcast is live. So it puts extra pressure on us because we're now broadcasting to literally tens of people. I'm going to put, for anyone who's listening in, because we are live, it means that people can join us. We've had some nice comments coming already. Adefunke's here, who was on the burrito this morning. Vanessa's here and Matt is here. We're going to keep the chat overlay off the screen just now, but we'll be checking back in on any comments. If you've got any questions for Tim as we go through, please put them up. Any comments or questions, we are glad to take them, and I'm sure Tim's glad to take them too. Yep, perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so a little bit different to the last time that we met. We were a bit kind of more analog. We're a bit more digital now. I guess a ridiculous question to ask, but since the last time we met, and actually we met physically, I came over to your office and we met, and we were doing the old elbow touches and
yes,
masks and gels and all sorts, and everybody sitting taped off offices and all that. How have the last 2 years been for you, sort of commercially and domestically?
The last 2 years have been really exciting, I would say, but not without lots of challenges. Commercially, it's been exciting because the pandemic forced and forged rapid change, as we all know. And in fact, to be fair, Eric, I would say you've been a pioneer in the digital space, which has been inspiring for me and others, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Virtual workshops, virtual webinars, podcasts, the digital virtual communication space. I would say that's been exciting and challenging. I'm grateful for it because I reflect with lots of people that 2-3 years ago, we were aware of the various digital platforms, but it was convenient to ignore them and or avoid them because our comfort zone was standard meetings and conferences, and humans like to be comfortable and avoid the space outside the comfort zone. It's true for all of us. And so what happened with the pandemic, unfortunate as it was in general, of course, was that it kind of forced us to confront digital, virtual. And I believe that now, from a commercial perspective, we're in a much, much better place in terms of communication, having options for reaching out to people that can't travel, for various reasons, of course, impact on the environment. So lots and lots of advantages from the challenges that we faced. In terms of domestically, again, I'd say, the pandemic put pressure on families everywhere for all sorts of different reasons. Speaking personally, the homeschooling piece, my wife managed incredibly well. But that combined with trying to work from home proved, I would say, a bridge too far for the Wigham household. I'll just be honest there. So
go to the shed. Leave me alone.
I tried everything. Trust me, I tried everything. None of it worked.
Working from his car.
I'm pretty sure I tried that actually. Sitting in the car on the Wi-Fi outside the house. Bless my children. My younger daughter, who's nearly 8, she would come in to the attic space where I was working as a makeshift study. And, bless her, she had no awareness or interest, and nor should she have, meetings I was trying to undertake. So I was grateful when I could get back into the office, which in fairness was pretty quick in 2020, and I was grateful for that. Grateful for the ability to separate work from family, I think, in that respect. But I think the other point I would make is that it was a great opportunity for the family to spend long periods of time together. And that opportunity had not been there for years and years prior because, either mum or dad was away working or kids were at school doing lots and lots of activities. And we weren't actually connecting around the table as much as we did because of the pandemic. So, commercially and domestically, I would say there were pros and cons, but I like to focus on all the benefits that came out of it. Surprising benefits.
Totally. So what age are your kids again? You've got 3, right?
Got 3, girl, boy, girl. So Leola is 12, Zachary is 10, and then Kayla is turning 8 at the end of October.
Fantastic names. Yeah. Love the names. Love the names. Keeping it real. Back in the heritage. I love that. Absolutely fantastic. Do you think, I'm just reflecting here on my own situation. My kids are not kids. 23-year-old daughter and a newly 18-year-old son who's certainly making up for lost time in lockdown. As soon as he turned 18, I'm like, you don't have to be in the pub all the time. You don't have to be making up for lost time. But I guess what I saw in my own, certainly in my son, who was 16, 17, was deep frustration in the fact that he was losing out on the sort of formative years in his life. Now, your kids are a bit younger, but did you, apart from suddenly Mummy and Daddy are working from home and everything's kind of changed a little bit, did you see any impact on the kids in terms of schooling or just in their development?
Less so than your kids, Eric, and the age. I definitely empathized and sympathized with kids that were teenagers, potentially end of school, university age, because we all know that window of time in all of our lives is a special one, and to some degree you can't get that back. No, I'm not kind of playing the victim there, but it must have been quite tough for people at that age. In terms of my kids, I think there was an impact early on, just the fact that they were observing on TV alongside us the devastation that COVID-19 was causing across the world. And of course, we can all remember those the footage of the hospital wards in Italy and Spain and France, and then the UK, and what we were seeing out of China. I think it'll kind of scar all of us to some degree, and the kids wouldn't have necessarily missed that. So of course they were aware of that, and then closer to home, the impact in terms of not being able to socialize and have play dates with their friends. That's something I remember. However, again, playing games together as a family, putting little videos together to send to family and share on social media, those are some of the fun memories that we have. And things like board games or going for walks together as a family, and indeed getting a lockdown dog, as many families did. So we possibly wouldn't have got a family dog as soon as we did had it not been for the pandemic. So
fantastic to hear how different people coped with it. And from a personal perspective, I'm fascinated by the decisions that you made in terms of what you were going to do with these 2 years, because it would have been really easy to just go, I'm just going to watch Netflix and just get some popcorn and do all of that. But for those that know Tim and for those that follow you, you will have noticed that Vanessa's the same on the lockdown dog. For those that know Tim, will know that you managed to fit in a TED Talk. And we're gonna circle back on the concept and the central theme around that TED Talk in a second. And you've also gone on to take what you spoke about in that TED Talk, and you've gone through to publish yet another book. What is this book? 6 or 5 or 6?
Yeah, number 6. Number 6. My book Moodset. I've actually got it here. There you go.
There you go. I've got a less glamorous version. I've got a little digital version like that
Brilliant.
there.
Absolutely
So there
brilliant.
it is. Tim Wigham, Moodset, fairly new out on Amazon, right? I mean, it's only what, a week or so.
Yeah, spot on, Eric. Yeah, a week or so. Yeah.
So herein lies the question. The last time we met, August the 28th, 2000, we were having a chat, and you said, I'm interested in this whole thing about how mindset and method work together. But you kind of dropped the seeds in that you were fascinated by this concept of mood being a sort of controlling factor in all of this. How can you have a good mindset? And I watched it back earlier this week when you were you could see that you were pulling threads and straws together about this whole thing about mood. So you went on to crystallize your thinking on this. This concept of mood set, for anyone who's not read the book or anyone who hasn't watched your TED talk, which we'll come to in a second, where is it centralized then? What's the concept of mood set?
The concept is that mood set is as important as mindset, and I think there's a lot of awareness around mindset, having the right mindset, or setting your mind to something. There's less awareness, in my experience and my observation as a performance coach for the last 20 plus years, around the importance of mood and the importance of creating the right climate or the right conditions for a team to flourish. I always like to think of creating the conditions for individual flair and collective flow. So you don't want to clone people. You want every individual to feel that they can bring the best of them to a project. Equally, you want to create the conditions where the team is pulling together in the same direction. So I guess for me, Eric, when the TED Talk came along, and it was an opportunity to share an idea with the world on the TED stage, an immense privilege, one which you've been privileged to face this year, which I'm really proud to hear as
Thank you.
well. I realized that was the burning theme that I desperately wanted to share with leaders everywhere. I really feel that many project teams in different industries and different environments do not realize their own potential because leaders underestimate the importance of setting the mood, the impact that their language, their behavior, and their actions have on those around them. And if we can increase that awareness, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can achieve. So as soon as the talk was done, as you touched on there, I thought, right, the opportunity now is to expand on that 15-minute message that I shared from the red dot at TEDx Aberdeen last year, and to put down on paper and hopefully in the future into an audio book more of an explanation for people that might not understand what I mean by mood set, around how we can manifest a better mood in our work environment, in our domestic environment, and even in a holiday environment to impact those around us.
Now, in your TED talk, you started by, and I thought it was beautiful. Anyone who watches it, I urge you to go and watch it. Just put Tim Wigham, Moodset, TED, and it'll come up, no problem. You'll see Tim standing there doing his thing. You start by saying that you were possibly weren't getting this right at home, and you're very honest about it. The fact that you talk about the man cave, and you go in, the kids go, right, okay, I'm out of here, and so just walk us through that. How you're not claiming to be some sort of deep set psychological expert on mood set, but you're giving us practical examples of how it might not have been going so well for you and how you addressed it.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I mean, I'm a strong believer that we teach what we need to learn, and setting the mood is something that I need to constantly work on, because I know that I can often appear aloof or distracted. And I realized in the home domestic environment, especially during lockdown, that I was often not available for my kids. I was distracted by work or by my own interests.
Yeah.
And that played into it. I started to do some research into how some of the best sporting coaches have turned things around for their teams or have created conditions for their team to flourish. I read up on coaches that had taken exactly the same players, almost like 75% of the team, exactly as it was when they had a losing streak of 10 in a row, and managed during the course of 6 to 12 months to turn that team around and win a world championship or go to a 10-game winning streak. And I started to read up about how those coaches set the mood for their players, how they created the conditions in the locker room or indeed for executives in the boardroom to turn things around. And it really got me thinking about how I could apply some of those principles and tools in a domestic environment. I also listened to my kids. I started to get feedback from them in terms of how they would want me to interact, what games they would like me to play with them, what we could do together to enhance the mood. And I touch on this in the book, Eric. Play, just play itself is actually the most important element of Moodset. So if you can create a work environment where your work team feel like they are almost playing or almost doing something that they're passionate about. And I think you exemplify this with some of your initiatives like Crux Cast and the breakfast burrito on a Thursday, where it's professional and commercial, but it's also playful and it's fun, and people come to it with a smile and with a singing spirit, wanting to get involved. So it just fascinated me, and it continues to fascinate me, this concept of setting the mood. And you're spot on. I constantly need to work on this myself. And I guess to that end, one of the tips that I have for people is when you leave work and travel from work to home, the trigger word that I've now started to use is the word mood set. And when I say mood set to myself as I pull up outside my house from a day at work, ready to go into the house, is it's a bit of a paradigm shift. It's a bit of a change mentally, physically, being aware that as you walk into the house, your children are looking to you for the mood that you're bringing home. And I have been guilty in the past of bringing back some frustrations, concerns, distractions from a work environment, walking into the house with a frown on my face, with body language which might suggest that I'm frustrated, distracted, don't want to be talked to. And I now, by saying mood set, I'm so aware of these intricacies, the impact that subtle body language has on your kids, indeed in the same way as a work environment. So I say mood set to myself, and I try and walk into the home with a smile on my face, greet the kids by name, ask them how their day has been. Simple stuff. Some people get it right a lot more than I do. But I've certainly seen a change in my own impact on mood set in the house by doing that when I get home from work.
And I'm guessing again, just from my learning from reading the book, that same parallel applies to walking onto the drill floor, walking out onto the back deck, walking into a team meeting, walking into a board meeting, whatever. You know, we're talking about the same thing here. I remember in my corporate life, and even when I was on the tools, I'm thinking about one rig superintendent in particular who had a reputation which was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying reputation. One rig superintendent was a team guy. We're in this together, guys. You know, I'm here to support you. The other one come on and would walk around and just stare at people, and that was his thing. And would walk into a room and people would leave, and just like you can almost feel themselves squeezing themselves against the wall to get out behind this guy because they don't want anything to do with him. And the mood, thinking back then, you know, didn't realize about this. The mood dropped, the mindset changed, the delivery changed. And when you went back, and this was done years later, when you went back and looked at incident spikes and dropped objects and all of that, guess when the spikes were? Right? So it's like, oh man, this is powerful stuff. Later on, I ended up working with that guy on a project where we were traveling around the world together. We went all over Africa together, and we became really close friends. And I told him about this, and he wept over dinner. He didn't realize. He didn't realize. And he said, I wish I could go back in time. He said, you're joking, right? You're joking. And he said, but I was really pressured, a lot of pressure on me and stuff, you know. And I said, yeah, and you carried it with you and you gave it to everyone that you walked into the room. You know, I would see you coming and I would take another hallway to go down. I didn't want to walk past you because of the vibe that you gave off was just of terror and just so change. Amazing. I still think about we've spoken about it before. A drilling rig is a perfect environment for that, when especially when you've got management changing out overlapping crews, and how mood changes and mindset and performance changes just because that guy or that team of guys are now in the office. Absolutely intense, right? Really intense.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant. And just to pick up on that, one of the best visual descriptions I like is walking on eggshells. And
Yeah.
it ties in so well to what you've just described there. And the worst thing possible is if you, as a leader or as a parent, are creating an environment where those around you are tiptoeing on eggshells, ideally away from you, because they, as you say, they don't want to be anywhere near you.
Yep.
How is that ever going to be a high performance environment or even an average performance environment? And as you say, Eric, lots of research has shown the correlation between fear-based environments and incident rates in heavy industry, high reliability, high ego type environments. And so it's fairly simple, but not necessarily easy to convey to leaders everywhere. If you are more engaging, more approachable, more amenable to people, and can lift the mood or maintain a positive mood, it's going to be a more productive environment. And there are countless research studies on this. And one that I just want to point out, which I touch on in my TED talk, is the research by the University of Oxford, where they proved without any doubt that mood is contagious. Unfortunately, not only that, but a bad mood spreads faster than a good one.
Wow.
So that is a cautionary tale and a cautionary statistic from the University of Oxford, one of the best in the world. And if you look it up on Google, it's a recent study, took place in the last 3-4 years, and it was a controlled study, and they discovered the impact of mood on a group. So and the one other study that I touch on in the TED talk is that happy workers are between 10 and 20% more productive, again, in a number of different studies, in some cases way more than that. But again, these are scientifically studied, proven research results, and therefore, why not apply them, right?
Why not apply them? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to check in with some of our lovely listeners, viewers out there.
Yeah.
Vanessa has picked up on something that I wrote down when you said it. Individual flair and collective flow is really powerful, right? That's something I'm taking away from today. That is fantastic. Have the individual flow, individual flair. Have lots of individual flair, but get it collectively flowing together. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that.
Thanks,
We're
Vanessa.
going to come back to Adi Funky's question about the book slightly later. And Andy says, your feeling mood is the center of the sandwich, one slice of bread, your thinking the other, your actions and how you eat the sandwich is how self-aware you are. What a great observation.
Yeah,
Absolutely
like it.
fantastic. Yeah, very good indeed. I'd like to, if I could, for our, our viewers' benefit and also for myself, I'd like to take you back to your TED experience, if that's okay.
Yes.
Now, for people who know you, I mean, you're used to standing in front of groups of people and communicating, receiving and exchanging communication, right? That's something that people know about you. That's what you do. You stand and you connect with people, and you're trying to get people to come with you on a vision of team performance, right? So I'm guessing standing up and doing a TED talk was just a breeze, right?
Exactly. Even for someone who is pretty experienced, arguably, because I thought experienced, it was a challenge, and therein lay the value of it. It was well outside the comfort zone, as you're experiencing now, I would imagine, Eric. And congrats again, by the way, on being
Oh,
selected
thank you, man.
for
Thank
the
you.
next TEDx Aberdeen. I can't wait to come and watch it live, hopefully, and to hear your message. Yeah, it's daunting. It's intimidating. It's got a proven reputation, and it's a voice. It's an opportunity to share a message with the world through TED, which has a really strong reputation. So for all of those reasons, we put ourselves under pressure as much as anything else. But yeah, it was daunting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm finding myself working with the team. Big shout out to Bob Keeler and Derek Thompson and
Yeah,
the rest of the support team. Is just that, I was thinking, well, I'm fairly comfortable with some aspects of this, but I'm sure there'll be some learning. But I was just thinking just yesterday how fundamentally like some of this stuff is a moon landing to me. It's like, and my big thing is, give me an hour and I'll just blah 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 like we're doing right now. We don't really have a script today. We're just having a chat, right?
yeah, yeah,
Get me to put a cohesive message in a story with a beginning, a meaning, an end, with all of the little high points and all the little tones and timbres and all the little devices that are used to get people. Do that in 12 minutes. Do that in 12 minutes. Quite
yeah.
incredible.
It is incredible, and you will get there. It's the development progress and kind of coaching phase that you go through where self-doubt creeps in, and I can remember it clearly. And also, as you say, having to distill uh, something that you could talk about for hours into a short period of time. Not only that, do it without any notes. And by the way, do it in a way that makes you come across as calm, collected, comfortable, and very, very importantly, as Bob and Derek will re-emphasize time and time again, eye contact and connecting with the audience. So, just a few things that you have to get
Yeah.
right all together.
In front of a live audience and
Yes.
knowing that this will be broadcast around the world digitally forever, right? It will live
Forever.
beyond
That's
their
right.
years.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no pressure, no pressure, no pressure at all. Um,
Yeah.
what was the kind of reaction? I guess you've had your story's a motivational thing, it's an upbeat thing, but what was the kind of reaction from people who saw it? And, what's the year been like sort of post TED?
Humbling, extremely gratifying. I saw it as an immense privilege. The feedback I had was positive, and I'm really grateful for that. And yet, I only got there through massive help from Bob, Derek, Elisa, and others, and the cohort of fellow TED speakers last year. Eric, the feedback, yeah, it's been great. And what I'm really grateful for at the moment is that I'm starting to get organizations reaching out saying, your message resonated. Our leaders need to hear it. Would you be interested in coming to speak to us either in person or virtually? And that for me is actually the most important, because I'm so passionate about the message and I'm so passionate about servant leadership and helping fellow leaders in different industries, but particularly the energy sector, to raise our game in setting the right mood for teams to flourish and to realize their potential. So the opportunity that I was given to speak at TEDx Aberdeen and share a message with the world through TED is really now allowing others to understand what I'm trying to convey and to reach out and say, hey, would you be interested in sharing that with our team here? I mean, so that's probably the most rewarding feedback from a commercial point of view, or, from a project point of view. And then I've also had feedback from friends who are parents, and indeed feedback straight after the TED event, funnily enough, last year, saying, the points that I made towards the end of the TED talk about the mood we set being the legacy that we leave behind as parents, being something that really touched them. They found it really powerful and were really grateful for that. So again, I found that humbling, and it reminded me to walk the talk and to be authentic as a dad at home and to create the right legacy for my kids through my behavior and my mood set in the domestic environment. So lots of feedback, Eric, and an immense privilege. You realize actually how significant that TEDx site is actually on YouTube, because you realize, how many people follow it and search on it for different themes. And then they come across your message, they view it, and then they reach out. It's kind of interesting. It's really good.
My goodness. I don't know if that's helped. I don't know if that's helped. Right. So you did you set out when you did you have book in mind when you did the TED talk, or did that sort of naturally come from it?
I would say the latter, actually. I have used self-published books to put a little bit of pressure on myself to make sure that what I am reading about and reviewing and then sharing with regards to performance improvement um, is quality assured. So through kind of LinkedIn posts and then through self-published books, it's putting a bit of pressure on myself to make sure that what I'm putting out there is credible and has had feedback and constructive criticism from different readers. So books were already familiar to me, and putting books out there were familiar to me before the TED Talk, but I didn't necessarily have in mind that I would do a book on Moodset.
Right.
Even the TED Talk, actually, thanks to Bob and Derek and others, evolved from what I was originally going to do into the concept of Moodset, which
Wow.
so it was a crucible, if you like, for the transformation of my message in itself. And I guess after the 31st of July 2021 last year, when we did TEDx Aberdeen, I was so pumped up afterwards and so kind of humbled by the experience and the feedback that I thought I owe it to myself and the viewers and those that didn't hear the message to continue to share the message. And I thought that the obvious next step would be a book. And actually, now that I have got the book out in Kindle and paperback version, the pressure's actually on, and I'm getting some requests to put it into audio and Audible, so that people can kind of listen to it while they're driving or doing whatever. So so that's the next step. That's the next
There you
challenge.
go. Adefunke, he's answered your question, whether it's going to be available on Audible. So that's something that you're thinking about doing now.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Would
Yeah.
you do it? Would you do that yourself? Read it?
I think you need to with something like this.
Yeah.
You're right. It's tempting to outsource, and there are many organizations that now offer that service. But I think for something as personal
Yeah.
and important as Moodset, I need to be reading it and punctuating the key messages myself. So yes, I'm going to have to knuckle down, take the 20 to 30 hours that it takes to do that properly.
Oh
But it'll be
man,
a great learning curve. It'll be another
of course it
step
will.
outside the comfort zone.
Big time, big time. When you open the book, mood is our inner music. Moodset is the playlist that we create and choose. Is the little caption that smacks you between the eyes. Mood is the inner music. What struck me about the book was the amount of really. This isn't a book that you're going to read where it's all highbrow. It's all about highbrow performance coaches and all of that. You bring this to the people. The amount of reference material that's very accessible and understandable to average Joe and Joanne like me is amazing. I mean, you go from Freddie Mercury to The Greatest Showman, the musical, which I thought was brilliant, to sports, to Andy Farrell's quote about getting the mood right in the Irish camp, to then soaring up a bit into the sort of corporate world and business leaders and philosophers and all of that. I guess my question is, were you finding that these examples of these moodset, it'd be easy to think, right, I'm going to write a book about moodset. It's all about team performance. I'm going to keep it very corporate and all about highly dynamic team performance. But you're actually telling us that there's examples of this in every walk of our lives, right? Every walk of our lives.
Absolutely.
So bringing all that together must have been fun as well as being academic, right?
Yeah, I recently read the book "The War of Art" by Stephen Pressfield. If you haven't heard of it, I thoroughly recommend it. And he challenges all of us to just start writing. And that's kind of what I did with Moodset. Obviously, I had the TED Talk and my previous book, Accelerating Automatic, where I had realized the importance of performance climate and mood, as we now call it, mood set the mood. But Stephen Pressfield says, just write, just get stuff down on the pages, and even though at the time that you're writing it might not completely make sense, it will all come together if you just let your creative juices flow. And so to some degree, that was what I did. I thought, let me just reference what comes to me when it comes with regards to inspiration and what lifts my own mood, because I think that's the only thing that we can do is be honest and authentic about what sets a positive mood and an inspired mood of hope for ourselves. By doing that, hopefully others, the penny drops, the light bulb goes on, and they go, right, okay, what inspires me might be slightly different based on my likes and dislikes, what turns me on. However, I get the message. And going back to your point, and thank you for referencing it, Eric, mood is our inner music. Moodset is the playlist that we bring. The way I look at that is, if you consider your mood in terms of a sad song or a happy song, if your mood is down, you might think of a sad song. It's almost like your inner feeling is that really sad song, whatever it might be for you. Whereas if your mood is positive, it's that pumping, happy song. And, your Big Live breakfast burrito is brilliant at this on a Thursday. It pumps up the music, and you're at work on a Thursday, and you guys just do a fantastic job of playing some hits from yesteryear, which just take you back and take you up. And so when it comes to a playlist, my view is, why not invest a little bit of time and effort into creating, for example, a Spotify playlist of your best tunes. Now, I'm sure you've done this, Eric, ad nauseum, ad infinitum, but many don't take the time to do that. And yet, if you do that, you kind of get literally the 10 songs that inspire you the most. Get them and have them ready and play them when you're hitting that sad song. Why not play the music that takes you back to happier times or lifts your mood? And I guess if you take that metaphor a step further, it's the same principle with your family or with your work colleagues, your team at work. Based on your understanding of them and hopefully feedback from them, what are the activities or the things that you can do to lift the mood set, because you understand the team and you understand that this is what lifts them up. And maybe it's a coffee morning, maybe it's getting bacon rolls into the office on a Friday morning, which we do here at Exceed. What is it that you can do to lift the mood and set the mood in the right place? And then, the other point that you make is, for me, it's about inspiration. And so I've referenced movies, sports teams, experiences that have really inspired me, people that have inspired me, initiatives that have inspired me. And I've kind of just, and then I guess having put all that down on paper, Eric, it was then a case of, oops, now I need to organize this into some sort of structure, which I settled, as you would have seen in the book, on kind of mood set, how that plays into climate, and then how that plays into culture. So it's a book that really, I believe, should allow the reader over 100, not too many more than 100 pages, to really have a better understanding about how to set the mood for themselves and those around them.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. We're going to take some comments from the floor. Adefunke is looking forward to the hearing your right mood sets, Tim, in the audio. That's cool. Andrew creates a musical playlist every week. He certainly does. Absolutely. Comment in here from Andy. Real and relatable examples, stories and hooks, definitely more impactful than the abstract, without a doubt. And a lovely question here, which might test you a little bit here, Tim, from Emily at OEUK. What is the best way to politely tell someone else they need to lift their mood? So, in even, well, specifically with that question, but even broader terms, you realise that there's a mood problem and you might not be the leader. What can you do about it?
There's a couple of things that spring to mind. It's a great question. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah,
so one is, be the change that we want to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi quote. The other is, meet someone where they are. So I've found over time and experience, if someone's angry, it can be antagonistic to wander in whistling with a big smile on your face. So to be real, you need to meet someone where they're at. So a little bit of empathy goes a long way, a little bit of sympathy. Why are you angry? Oh, yes. Yeah. Buses when they're late can be really annoying, contact, etc. So understanding, why is someone aggrieved? Why is someone frustrated? Perhaps they don't get listened to too often. So by merely listening to them and empathizing a bit, you can maybe connect. And once you've got that connection, there's an opportunity to lift them up and to set the mood. And in fairness, I strongly believe that where mindset and mood set meet is leadership, servant leadership. And so ideally, you should know those in your team or in your family. If not, and this is maybe someone who you've just met, then of course you try and get to know them quite quickly and try and lift their mood by focusing. And it's a bit like with little kids, when little kids are throwing a tantrum, my wife always used to say to me, distract them, point at something else so that they get distracted. And quite frankly, as adults, it's no different. How can you distract someone who's in a grumpy mood and get them into a more positive mood? And that often means you need to know them. What's their favorite music? Is there a concert that's coming up that they would be interested in? Which football team do they follow? Let's talk about perhaps the better days for Manchester United. I don't know if that helps, Emily, but those are two tips that spring to mind.
I love that, though. Be the change that you want to see in the world, but also meeting people where they are rather than trying to drag them to where you are, meeting them where they are and trying to work from the inside. I hope that's answered your question there, Emily. Thank you so much for that. The book's out, the TED Talk's done. I guess a question kind of leading back to where we started this. We came through some really tough times for the last couple of years. People have really suffered. People have lost jobs. People have experienced massive mental health pressures and all of that. Do you think the pandemic and the associated responses like lockdown and all of that have had long-lasting effects? Or are we just going to get out of this now and just get back to it? I know we're working differently and we're maybe living differently, but has it actually done any damage to us, do you think?
I think it has. I think we have to acknowledge that. Certainly what I read and hear is that many people have got a kind of long COVID or a longer term impact on the isolation wrought by the pandemic. So I think we need to acknowledge that it didn't affect me because I have a fairly big family and I'm very, very lucky to be surrounded by a fantastic work family at Exceed. However, I'm very, very aware that there are many, many thousands, if not millions of people, UK, globally, who are not so lucky. They don't necessarily have the personal family or the work family. So I think it's like all problems and challenges. We need to acknowledge that it exists in some form or another, and then it's about taking action and being empathetic and asking how can we help and what we can do. And I won't pretend that I am as good at that as I should be. I'm inspired by many that I see who do an awful lot to try and help those in need and those that have been affected by COVID, Eric. I think initiatives like your burrito breakfast messaging on a Thursday, I think there's lots of things that we can do to try and lift the mood for people wherever they are through digital means, and thankfully podcasts and such have become much more accessible. So yeah, it's I would say yes, there has been an impact, more on some than others, and we need to continue to acknowledge and do what we can to influence that.
Very good, very good. Very personal question. You dropped your wife in it in your TED Talk by telling the entire planet that she listens to Dolly Parton playlists. I think it's only fair that you fess up what kind of music are on your playlists. That's something we all want to know. What's on your playlist that lifts your mood? Who does Tim Wigham listen to?
It depends what I am trying to lift my mood for. If it's going for a workout, going to the gym, I'm quite a fan of 90s trance.
90s trance.
90s trance.
I love it.
I trance. The days where I was just jumping around on dance floors, just having great fun. That kind of gets me pumped up. And funny enough, also, I quite like the motivation talk playlists as well that you find on YouTube and Spotify. I am quite a fan of those. Some people find them quite contrived. Someone shouting at you from the screen. My kids actually take the mickey out of me with those quite often if I have them on when I'm working out. But so I quite enjoy those. I think, Bon Jovi and Def Leppard from the 80s.
Yeah.
Those were the kinds of tunes that were banging out while you were, going about your day
Yep.
at school, at boarding school. And in fairness, even now, a little bit older, I still enjoy hot hits, the latest contemporary pop music.
Very good.
Yeah, my brother is more into things like Iron Maiden and all those, the sort of heavier metal stuff. I was not as much into that, although some of the tunes are just priceless, of course, timeless. But yeah, I'm often good with sort of the latest hot hits because they tend to resonate with experiences that I have, and then I'll pick songs that resonate based on an experience, and I'll add it to my Spotify, which is sort of an ongoing build-up of songs, best songs from each year, just to lift my mood when I want to listen to it.
I love that. I love that. I love when you get inside 90s trance. Did anyone, Vanessa? I did not see that coming. She said.
Yeah.
Listen, for those that know you, you know that you're a massive fitness guy. Are you still doing? Did you manage to keep up with CrossFit? Are you still doing it?
Yes, I love CrossFit. I love the community, most importantly, at CrossFit Aberdeen and in CrossFit in general. Fitness is very important to me. It's one of my values, always has been. One of the main reasons being that I want to stay fit for my kids and grandkids and be able to, at short notice, go and kick a ball about with them or play touch rugby on the beach or go for a swim or a surf or whatever it is. So that's a driving motivator for me to stay fit. And what I will say about CrossFit is 10 years or so ago, I was kind of getting a little bit bored with going to the gym, personal training. I was trying to spice things up a bit in terms of workouts and try and find something that kept me interested, and I was struggling. And then when CrossFit came about, the great thing about it, because it merges, Olympic lifting with gymnastics, with metabolic conditioning, and basically anything goes in CrossFit. That's what I like about it. You turn up at the gym and you don't know what you're going to do that day. And therein lies the fear, but also the fun. So,
Wow. Therein lies the fear, but also the fun. Listen, I know you've got a hard stop at 20 past. I wanted to talk about your experience on TED, which I think we got. I wanted to get behind the sort of how the book came about. Moodset, we'll just put it up once more, just to remind people what it looks like. It looks like this. It's available on Amazon now. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, available on Amazon now.
Yeah.
It's a great read, and it's got fantastic reference points in it that actually made me think slightly differently about things. Like you, I'm not a huge fan of musicals. I would actually veer towards the fact that I actively don't like musicals. One day, my big, butch, manly rugby-playing son, I came into the room and he started watching The Greatest Showman. I think this is quite funny that you mentioned this in the book. And I said, "What on earth are you doing?" And he said, you need to sit and watch this. And I sat with him and we sat and watched. I had tears running down my face. Yeah. I was going, come on, yes, you can do it. Absolutely loved it. So listen, the book's out. We could spend an hour saying what's next, but that's probably another podcast for the future when we'll catch up with you in time. Congratulations on your TED Talk. Congratulations on the release of your 6th book. We will keep in touch with you, and I urge anybody out there who's not connected with Tim to drop him a connection request. Being part of his digital community is quite an inspiring thing. Tim Wigham, thank you so much for Crux Cast 66. I hope it's been okay for you.
It's brilliant, Eric. Absolutely loved it. Thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for inspiring me. Much appreciated. And yeah, until next time, much appreciated.
Thanks to everyone for joining in, and we'll see you again for Crux Cast 67. Bye, guys. Bye, Tim.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.